I've been looking forward to this all day too. Steve Ciobo is a Liberal MP, Ed Husic is a Labor MP. Sadly, I can't be with them in Canberra, but they can be with us via our Canberra studio. Gentlemen, good evening to you.
G'day, Paul.
Evening.
All right, we're in this absurd scenario where, as I'm sure everyone knows, you are sitting next to each other, but you're pretending you're not, and you're looking at a camera. So let's enjoy the oddity of modern television. All right, Ed Husic. I always want people to admit it, because it is the fakest, weirdest thing people do on TV, pretending it's not there.
Blind spot.
Yeah,
He's got my
exactly.
blind spot.
All right,
the good thing
hands down,
about
no more
Chobes
taking
is
of anyone's screen time, because let's just get into it. Ed Husic here. You must think this budget is pennies from heaven, because while it mightn't be great for people who live in your part of the world, you've got plenty of things to ram down the government's throats.
I don't think so, like from my perspective, and yeah, obviously there'd be people that, particularly who support my side of politics, that might have that view, but from my own perspective, for the people that I represent, this has got a lot of sting in it, you know, particularly on the health side, the family payments side, the pension side, the things that actually support people that I know in my area, out Mount Druitt Way and Rooty Hill and Blacktown, that they're going to find it a lot harder. So it's tough for me, because I suspect that there were people that voted for the Liberal side of politics on the basis of what they thought were firm commitments about what would happen, and those haven't come to pass. In actual fact, it's gone the other way. So, for me, it's a degree of I feel for the people that may have put their trust in the coalition and have had that dashed.
Stephen, I think there's a lot of people watching this show who would believe in the philosophy that is, you've got to do your bit and then the nation does its bit. Government isn't there to hold your hand 24/7. But sure, as was just described pretty passionately by Richo, while everyone pays, the amount of pain and the impact that everyone feels, $100 from somebody at the lower end is going to feel a whole lot more like a genuine change to your lifestyle versus 2 cents on somebody earning 180 grand. While everyone pays, is everyone feeling the same sting?
Well, look, Paul, I mean, this is a consequence of the situation that we inherited. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say for one moment, that no one's feeling pain. We understand that people in the community are going to feel, that this has been a significant belt tightening. Believe you me, I get it. We also get that this isn't going to make us the most popular people around. But you know what, Paul? When you're in a situation where the country is borrowing $1 billion every month just to pay the interest on the debt that Labor left behind, then you know you've got a serious problem. So, unfortunately, Labor left us in a situation where we're borrowing $1 billion a month just to pay the interest on their debt. We had to make tough choices. Now, we have attempted as much as possible to spread, the contribution that everyone has to make. Low-income earners are affected, middle-income earners and high-income earners. Now, yes, if you're someone who is completely reliant or largely reliant on taxpayers' funds, if you're the person who is reliant on people paying their tax and then that money going through government and coming to you, then yes, we have had to make significant savings there, because that's part of making sure that we got the expenditure side back under control. But the flip side of that coin is we've also tried to make sure that high-income earners are paying their extra 2%. We're also trying to make sure that the community is also doing what they can in terms of fuel indexation. But the most important point is this, Paul. If Labor's really serious about saying how tough people are finding it, and if only the Liberals would do something, let me ask you this, Paul. Labor today could enable us to fill our election commitment to abolish the carbon tax, save households $550 a year. They could do it today, but they refuse not to because they'd rather play politics.
Okay, all right. Well, I want to ask you a very direct question here, Mr. Ciobo, which is, decisions were made. Why were decisions made not to go after things like negative gearing and superannuation taxes?
Well, because we gave a commitment in relation to superannuation where we said there would be no surprises that were detrimental, and we're following through on that commitment. And in relation to negative gearing, Paul, I often hear this argument raised about negative gearing. People say, well, why don't you do something about negative gearing, as if it only applies to real estate? The reality is that the negative gearing rules apply to all asset classes. It's not something confined just to real estate, it applies to all asset classes. Now, we are a government that fundamentally believes in trying to keep taxation levels as low as possible. We've got an issue now because we've got this mountain of debt that we've got to try to repay. We're trying to spread the contribution that everyone's making across all income bands, but we're not a government that wants to just keep taxing and taxing and taxing. We are trying to make a contribution from high income earners, but we're also trying to control expenditure as well.
Okay, but Ed, I just want to get, I'm going to ask you two questions here. The first one up is, what do you like about the budget? What is the stuff that, regardless of whether it pleases the masters or not, what do you like in the budget?
Well, from my perspective, there's not much to like. Budget that is basically built off a foundation of broken promises. I mean, they put themselves forward, the coalition, as that they would be a government of trust and integrity, that they would follow through, that they would say what they mean what they say. Steve made reference to the no surprises promise as well in passing in one of his contributions a few moments ago. I don't think there are too many people in the country who would say that they were expecting fuel tax, a GP tax, a hospital tax, 15 billion in hospital spending cut, the family payments changes when they were going to the ballot box in September. There were a lot of surprises there. And the other thing that gets me too is that, this sort of thing, this comment that's starting to creep in, that these people who are dependent on government money, and you can understand that they're upset. There are people that are on pensions today. They're on pensions for a reason, because superannuation wasn't around when they were at their peak, at their prime in the workplace, and they do rely on pensions because there wasn't a retirement income system in place for them.
But isn't the absolute truth?
Well, hang on a second, Paul, hang on. And those people are going to need support. Those people are going to be fuming, as they are right now. I'm getting Liberal Party supporters, people who chipped me through the last term of Parliament over carbon, who are saying to me they won't vote Liberal again because they feel betrayed.
Okay.
And I don't think those people should be treated as if they're bludgers. I saw this, the Menzies reference to lifters, not leaners. Well, these people contributed through the workforce, they contributed their taxes, and now they should be left alone in their retirement.
But is not the truth about what is happening with pensions here is that while after 2016 there could be a change to indexation, which means a change to the system about how you get more money for the pension, there is not a cut to the pension in terms of the amount of money that goes into your bank account for the next couple of years. There is not $1 that is being taken off pensioners.
They would have expected those indexation arrangements. I can assure you that a lot of the pensioners I know who have to calculate their costs of living and how they're going to match them would be banking on changes staying in place. And when they change the indexation arrangements, it changes their ability to meet their costs of living.
Okay.
So, yeah, they're going to feel that.
All right. Well, finally to you, Mr. Ciobo, here, before I give you both a final chance to say something before we get into our own panel here. On that pension factor, is it not important to note here that obviously a lot of people on pensions, there are going to be bludgers here and there, but there are fair income people who have done their bit for the country. They are the people who may well have actually gone off and fought a war for this country. So when we talk about doing your bit, haven't they already done their bit?
Well, Paul, it's interesting that you raise the issue about people who go off and might have fought a war for our country, because let me give you the clearest example that I can think of why Labor is just 100% playing politics with this issue. For those that actually are veterans, for those that went and served in uniform and fought a war for our country, in the last Parliament, we tried to index their pensions to, there's two indexation measures. There's CPI, which is inflation, and there's what's called MATAWI, which is basically wages. We tried to change it so it would be indexed to CPI or to wages, whichever was the higher. The Labor Party said no. The Labor Party said no. In this budget, or not in this budget, in this government, since we've been elected, we've now pushed through the legislation so that veterans, elderly veterans, actually can have it linked to wages. And the Labor Party ran a million miles from it. And yet when it comes to the age pension, the Labor Party's in there going, oh, these evil Liberals are breaking their promise. The problem is this, Paul. There are structural changes that needed to take place. Labor likes to run the line that by linking it to inflation and not to wages, that means every pensioner is going to be worse off. Not true. There are many examples in our nation's history where inflation has run ahead of wages as an indexation measure. So don't swallow for a second this line that Labor runs about how all pensioners are going to be worse off, because it isn't true. The facts are this: pensions are not being cut. Pensions will continue to increase. We are undertaking changes that, had Labor been responsible in government and not built up 600 or a pathway to $667 billion of debt, these changes wouldn't be necessary. But this is the consequence of getting the country in such a bad state that you're actually borrowing money to pay the interest, and that's what makes it unsustainable.
All right, lads, they're screaming in my ear, but I want to be very fair to you both. Ed Husic, 30 seconds on the clock. I will not interrupt you, but I cut your mic in 30 seconds from now. Free kick. Go.
This pain that has been affected on people on the basis of promises that were made and aren't being fulfilled, and there's a lot of politics that's been put into this in terms of the budget emergency that's been confected, and it's been demonstrated that a lot of the problems that these guys are having has been as a result of decisions they made coming into government. $9 billion to the Reserve Bank, for example, when they didn't ask for it, plus walking away from tax changes that would have brought them in revenue from multinationals. So they can't complain about it now, but thanks for the 30 seconds.
All right, you know I'm always here for you, mate. And Stephen Ciobo, 30 seconds.
I was being sarcastic,
That's
but
why
whatever.
I love you. That's why I love you, brother. All right, 30 seconds. Go for it, Mr. Ciobo.
Well, look, this is a budget that's tough, but it's fair. It's a budget where everyone's being asked to make a contribution: low-income earners, middle-income earners, high-income earners. But the fundamental point is this: when you're left with a situation where Labor is borrowing $1 billion a month to pay the interest on the debt, you know it's unsustainable. You wouldn't run your household where you try to service your mortgage by putting the interest payments on their credit card. You can't run government like that. So what we're doing are making tough decisions, but fair decisions.
Oh, bang right on the 30. All right, gents, thank you so much. Go Nixon. We'll see you soon. Ta-da. See you, Stephen Ciobo and Ed Husic. Both are on Twitter. Be kind to them. You send the abuse to me, nice stuff to them.